I was born in a little town in Ukraine. It's called Chechenik. It was Vinnytsia County in 1940. Mom was a pharmacist, the father was a teacher. But when the war started, my father was limping. He wasn't called to the action with German, so he was evacuated, and my mom said that she's not leaving the family, so we all stayed together with my grandparents, mom's sisters and brother. At home it was only Yiddish or Ukrainian. I finished a Ukrainian high school. I'm still good in Ukrainian, but Yiddish, I can understand what people talking about, but speak is very hard on me. It was okay, but some kids were really rude, speaking about Jews something, but mostly it was kind of okay. I couldn't go to the college in Ukraine, so I went to Russia. It was easier to, because the anti-Semitism in Ukraine was very high. Well, my mom and my grandparents told me a lot about that. That's why I know some stories. Some of they're all horrible, but some like stuck in my mind that I couldn't forget it forever. Okay, our city was a small town. It was mostly Jews living in that town. And when the German came, they make a face around our city. It was some Jews from the village nearby, and it was a lot of people from Romania. And we were occupied in that ghetto. Mostly it was Romanian soldiers. The Germans were coming and going. So what was my grandfather said that we were lucky that the Germans were not here, that the Romanian was there. The Romanian were people, soldiers that you can bribe them. So it was kind of, it was bad enough, but it was still better when the German came. Our little town was on the hill, and it was a small river, and the partisan blew out the bridge. So when the Germans were coming, it was hard for him to go to them to come. So we have time to hide. And one of the worst stories that I heard about that one night they came, they were drunk, and they decided to kill all Jews who are in that ghetto. So doesn't matter where we were hiding, they found everybody. They fighting guns were already staying. They told everybody to lay down, and everybody tried to pray and say goodbye to each other. And all of a sudden, one high-rank officer in a motorcycle came, and he asked, "Why are those people here?" And they said that go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning with the kids, let them go. And everybody except 10 men were let him go home, and the men never come back. Yes, everybody was here today. They found everybody. Because also there was some Ukrainian policeman who helped them find who was hiding somewhere else. The other story was about when the Germans supposed to come from the hill, the people who lived there know that the Germans are coming and nothing good will be there. So I don't know how, but my family, the whole family, managed to escape from ghetto, and they were running. And one Polish lady, I'll never forget her name, Yadzi Lisecka, she saw us running and she told us where to go. It was, at that time, corn was really high growing, and it was a ditch behind her house, and she told us to go there, and except us was another 5 Jewish families. She saved 6 families Jewish, so I'll never forget it. Maybe I was more than a year old, maybe I was already 2-year-old, but I was still a baby. Also, I remember about that Yada Lisetsky. My grandfather was working in a mill, and it was a hunger. People didn't have anything, but still they would bring something to make flowers of it. And on the end of the day, my grandfather would clean the stone on which was, and he would cut it into pieces, one for Yadza, one for the family. And if somebody said, it's 9 of us, it's just one Yadza, why you divide it on 2? My grandfather would say, if not the one Yadza, none of the 9 would survive. I was 5-6-year-old at that time. And I remember I was running to Yadza with a little sack, and I was so scared that I will not manage to bring it and lick the dust. So that's another story. But Yadza saved me twice. It was the first time, and the next time, I don't know how it happened that I was only the one in Yadza's house. Everybody was in the ghetto or whatever they were. I don't know, I know the story, what has happened. She had a fence, a metal fence around her house, and in the top was like a pig. So the German managed to do that when they caught a little kid, they can put it with their tummies on the... And she saw a German come in and, oh, it's a Jew, and she said, no, and I was blunt. She said, no, it's not a Jew, it's my granddaughter. And she saw that he doesn't let me go. She had a big bottle of milk, and it was more like gold at that time. And she tried to bribe him, and he didn't let me go. So she smashed that bottle, and she was yelling, it's my granddaughter, it's my granddaughter. And because she broke that milk, he decided that I'm probably her granddaughter, because she smashed the milk. That was another story. And one story that I want to share with you is there was a village not far from our, and it was only Jews living in that village. And the German said that you will be the head of that village to one man. And he figured out that early in the morning the whole village will be killed. So he told his wife, daughter, and son, you know, in the eyes of our neighbors, we will be a traitor to them. And we will be killed anyway, so let's take our lives. So the wife agreed with him, the daughter too, and the young boy who was 10, 12-year-old, he said, I don't want to die, I want to live. So his father told him, okay, run away, try to go through the night, and you know my grandfather, and he said, go to that ghetto, that's Romanian, and go to Uncle Yuku, and if you will be lucky, you will survive. He came probably after 2 weeks. He hardly could walk, and he was thin and exhausted, and he came to my grandfather, and he told him the story. And my grandfather told everybody that he is his nephew, and he stayed with us to the end of the war. He was the only one surviving from the whole Jewish population. Come back to the ghetto.
Went back to the ghetto.
Come back to the ghetto.
So you stayed there.
We stayed there. We were like my grandfather said, we were the lucky one because all families survived. Only one of mom's sister was beaten really badly. They were working in the field, she was beaten really badly. I lived in 1957 when I finished the high school. It was like our principal was very anti-Semitic, and there was kids. I wouldn't handle that. As soon as they came, I come here. They came and I shot them, the both of them. And the director, the principal said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "They know." "Why did you do that?" "They know." And I didn't tell, and I was suspended from school for 10 days because I was fighting. And my mom's sister was a teacher, and her friend was in that same school. And she said, "Okay, as the principal left, he will be not in school. Rita can come to work, to school again." So.
Were you excited?
I didn't feel nothing like that. In college, it was perfectly okay until one girl was from one school to another. She came to college, and she started talking about that. So one boy told me, "You know how Jews are bad? They speak mostly like German." And I said, "I'm a Jew too." "No way!" And we were almost fighting. And I worked in a factory where the factory was doing men's suits, and I was working in a department which, like paperwork, all that. I was like in accounting. So at work I didn't feel nothing like that. My in-law have a sister in New York, and she came to visit her. And when she came back, she said, "We have to go." So my daughter, her husband and son went with them. And of course, I missed my grandson so much that I want to go to America. So. I have 2 children, a daughter and a son, and I'm the lucky woman that we live in a nice city. Both kids live in the same town, and both of them are 10 minutes to drive from my home, so whenever, God forbid, I need them there. We had a big synagogue before the revolution, and the Germans tried to blow it up. They couldn't. The walls were so heavy that they couldn't do that. When I grew up, it was not a synagogue, but on the top of that you can see it was written in Hebrew something. And about 3 years ago, I heard that they want to renew it, but there's no Jews in that little town left, any of them. So why do they have to do that? And not long ago, I talked to some of my friends who have connection with somebody close to the town, and she said that they want to destroy that synagogue. Even in the city where I was living when I was working, it was a big city, Vinnytsia. No. I'm going to synagogue, but only for knitting. I don't go I'm not religious. You know, I came to America when I was 54. It was all my life I hear there's no religious, no. It's kind of hard to start something to do that you never did it all your life. I was kind of young, but when I was about 2, 3, I know that I have to be quiet. And what happened, Mom was in field, and German came, so my grandmother was with me, and we didn't have a pacifier. She would give me her breast to be quiet. That's...
And you told us that there was a story that you remembered when the war, and your grandmother said, how could you remember?
No, Mom said, you probably don't remember. We have a basement, and you can go into that basement from outside and from the room. So somebody was staying on the ladder and holding me on the hand, and the Russian partisans were staying in front of every window, having raffles. And when I told about that, Mom, she said, you probably read about that. But I do remember they were wearing hats like blue hat and on the top a red cross. I remember that. Mom said, no, you probably read about that, so. Not good. Not good. No. It was some policemen, whatever you call them, Ukrainian, who were sometimes even worse than the Nazis. But all the books in school, everything was about how good the Russians were during the war. And tell you right now, when I hear that the Russians are against Ukrainian, I couldn't believe it. I know about that, I read a lot about that, I listened to the news. I still couldn't believe that it's happened.
Why?
Because that was like brothers between each other. Well, it was much better with the Russian communists than with the Nazis. It was all the time until I left. Well, the little town where I used to live, I'll tell you an example. When my mom's brother, which was 5 years older than me, went to school, it was 28 kids. It was only one Ukrainian. Everybody else was Jewish. And they didn't like him somehow, so they were speaking in Yiddish between each other, so he went to another school. When I came to school, it was 12 Jewish kids. When my cousin, which is 9 years younger than me, it was 9. When her brother, it was 6. When my aunt left the city, it was only 2 Jews. Everybody else left the town. Somebody went to America, somebody went to different city, but nobody wanted to stay anymore in that house. So, I mean in the town, I said.
Yeah. So when I was a little girl and my family would have Passover, we always talked about the history of the Jews and having to escape. And then we talked about the Russian Jews and how difficult it was for the Russian Jews to be living in Russia. Do you know why we talked about that?
Because it was true, but you know, when we lived in Russia, we think everything is fine. It's supposed to be like that. Like anti-Semitism, yeah, we agree that it's here, but not everybody is an anti-Semite or something. The religion was forbidden. It's supposed to be like that. We didn't know how lucky we are when we escaped. Because everything, oh, okay, everything is fine. So we didn't know something better. We thought it's supposed to be like that. So that's why, like, we never had. Maybe they prayed, but nobody knows. My grandfather never go to pray, but he prayed it in the house. He has a tallis, he has twills, or whatever you call them, and but he did it at night. I know that I'm Jewish. Different. I have a lot of Ukrainian friends. We were in the same classroom with me. I didn't feel like that. One day, a German family came to our city. His 2 boys, and their father was working on a factory which made sugar from beets. So he went with me, and we stayed outside to talk, and my grandfather saw me. Rita, go home. I said, I'm coming. 2 minutes later, he said, go home. I was so surprised, and he told me, it's not enough what German did for us. You're dating a German guy. I said, I'm not dating him. We are going together from school and talk about it. I don't want to see him around. He was just a boy. He didn't know anything about that. I want to be everything in peace. My brother is living in Israel, so I know every time it's bad about that. I was, in my mind, even I am not religious, I am praying that everything would be fine. Now with Ukraine, I sometimes I even couldn't watch TV, I couldn't listen to the news. I still have a co-worker that sometimes we talk on the Skype, and when she told me story, it broke my heart. I would tell them the story what happened during the Holocaust, because a lot of kids don't know, even not kids, even adults, don't know anything about Holocaust. I read that in Great Britain they took out the name of Holocaust in all school books. There was no Holocaust. It's a myth, it's not true. So I would like the kids know about that.